My name is Dudo and I'm the Goalie Gear Snob, and I'm going to talk about this Sherwood Rekker Legend One goalie stick and tell you if it's worth it. So let's dive into it together.
Perfect.
Before I dive into this review fully, I'd like you guys to please make sure you subscribe down below, and at the end of this video, please share it to a friend and tell them to check it out as well. I've used this Sherwood Rekker Legend One for almost 4 full months now, at least once a week during that 4-month period, and I've used this stick exclusively with my Wednesday morning skate group and a few times on the Saturday morning group, but I'm very happy with how this stick has been performing. Let's go over some of the technology and compare this stick to the Rekker Pro and the 4, and I'll tell you why I went with the 1. This is the Rekker Legend 1, which comes in about $189 USD. The Rekker Legend Pro comes in at $249, and the Rekker Legend 4 comes in around $109. The reason why I went with the 1 here was just specifically because I wanted to get this 24-inch paddle. So this is considered an intermediate stick, but from my understanding and from talking to Sherwood, there's no differences between the senior and intermediate. They just classify this as intermediate, but it's almost identical to their senior, just the 24-inch paddle. So yes, I use 24-inch paddles. I think that's the perfect exact height for me. And I've tried 25s, tried 26s, tried a 23. 24 seems to be the sweet spot for me. So I'm very happy with using this stick, and I'm very happy with how this paddle size is here. So this is the 24-inch intermediate and the PP31. Basically your new kind of Bauer P31 curve that everyone has been kind of going towards the gold standard. So that's what they're offering on the stick here. From my understanding, they also offer the PP41, which is the old Sherwood standard, but I definitely prefer the 31 curve. When we're looking at some of the different technologies here between these two sticks, basically you're going to be getting the Featherlight XT material and the Silverlight Carbon that comes on the Legend Pro. And when you look at the Legend 1 right here, you're getting Featherlight X and considered Blackline Carbon, which is what you're seeing right here. So this stick is not going to have all the bells and whistles, but it has more bells and whistles in it to make it closer towards the higher end price point than the lower end price point. It's not right in the middle, it's a little bit more towards that high end. And some of those different materials in here, you're basically going to get the Blackline Carbon, which is a little bit heavier, and then you're going to get the Featherlight X, which is again going to be a little bit heavier, but it's still going to have all the same functions as their Pro version, just isn't as light. The other main difference you're going to get is actually listed across the back of the stick. I know it's upside down, but it says G92. That's basically a dampening material that Sherwood has put in through their sticks, similar to their player sticks. You're not going to get as much in the Legend 1 compared to the Legend Pro, but I did just want to call out that you're still getting that feature here as well. So when it comes to the blade of the stick, you can see I have a few cracks and a few heavy puck marks that are coming in right down here, so especially right in that area where I don't tape it. Of course, I guess that's how life works, but so I am starting to notice a little bit of cracking down here. But again, I don't tape this area, but I'm not noticing any issues while I'm shooting, passing, or making saves. They just want to call out that I am starting to get a little bit of wear there. So you can see that just underneath of the D right there. When it comes to the blade of the stick, specifically the curve, like I mentioned, I really like that P31 style, and I'm really a big fan of it here. I've had no issues shooting the puck off the blade or redirecting pucks. So if you're using a Bauer P31 and you really like that curve, you're really going to like it here on the Sherwood. I did just want to call out another difference between the Legend Pro and the Legend 1. The Legend Pro is supposed to be coming in just over 605 grams at a 26-inch paddle, and then the Legend 1 is supposed to be coming in around 636 at a 26-inch paddle. Again, I am using a 24, but the way I've actually been able to save some weight on the stick, and I've purposely been trying to hide it out of the way here, is that I have no tape across the shoulder, which is where the paddle and the shaft meet, and I have no tape up here on the top edge of the shaft. So I just have the knob here, no grip tape, nothing else. And it's something a little bit different for me that I haven't done before. The reason why I did that is because Sherwood has a special shaft design and shaft kind of like materials used here. So they call it their Go Zone, which is essentially, it's a full texture that runs across the back of the shoulder, and there's a tactile grip that runs up about 3/4 of the shaft, and then there's a grip that runs all the way throughout. So think of a player stick that's basically gripped from like the kick point all the way to the top end. That's what you're getting here. I'm able to grab the stick with my glove and blocker and make good passes because I have that full tactile grip. I have the full kind of sticky grip throughout, and I'm a huge fan of that. And because of having all this grip, I don't need to tape over it. And I've always said, like lacrosse players, you can save a lot of weight on the products you're using based off the amount of tape that you use. So I've been able to save more weight based off of not using any tape here. And I really like this tactile grip they put in here. It, you know, just kind of helps me grab onto the stick when I need to. And of course, keep everything nice and light. Now I want to go over some more of the paddle technologies and talk a little bit more about how I shoot the puck. So I've already talked about the featherlight material, the black line versus silver line. I've already talked about the G92 dampening material that's on the inside. I did not talk about the G Fire Kickpoint that they added in. So traditionally, goalie sticks have always had just a normal kind of flex point right here, right at the shoulder, just because of how the construction is on the inside. But Sherwood has actually moved the kick point down a little bit more to kind of amplify a lower kick. And I've really started to notice that here, that getting passes off are nice and crisp, but I don't notice the stick flexing when I'm redirecting pucks to the corner. That's, you know, a worry that sometimes these manufacturers have, is that by adding in a lower kick point, you're actually going to cause different flexes and rebound patterns. I've not had any of the issues here on the Legend One. I'm a huge fan of that. I really like how I'm able to snap pucks off here. I really like the curve. It's, you know, similar to what I'm using, but specifically with having this grip here and having this new kick point on the inside, I feel like I'm making more confident passes. Of course, playing with the Stars, I tend to have to handle more pucks and make passes to professional defensemen, but I've been able to feel very comfortable with this stick just with my own group. Again, kind of taking that confidence I have, added in with extra technology here. I'm really liking it. But something I did just want to mention is that this shaft is specifically rounded. So just the edges are ever so slightly rounded in the hand, that it feels like when I'm stick handling, I'm able to roll my hands a little bit more. And also I noticed that when pucks hit it, it's not breaking across those hard edges. So think of the Warrior ASG, where they have a specific, almost like two-sided shaft shape. Basically Sherwood kind of like mixed the middle ground there. So it's still looks like a traditional shaft, but it just has all the edges rounded. So you're not going to have pucks hitting those hard edges and potentially cracking the shaft. So huge fan of that here across the stick. The last thing I did just want to talk about here is what you're getting on the paddle. They call it the Un1Frame technology, which is a flat front with a rounded back. So flat front makes for predictable rebounds, kind of helps you know, make a larger surface, if you will. You don't have any other rounded edges where things would kind of pop around. But just know that flat front goalie stick, rounded back, and a pretty nice kick point because of that. So while holding this stick the entire time, I have felt that, you know, my arms are not fatigued, no issues there. I really like the weight of this. I really like the balance of the stick, and it's been a real pleasure to use. For the $189 price point, I find that this stick is more than robust and more than comparable to today's high-end stick. If anything, I'd argue you're getting a little bit more technology in that $200 price point. And while I haven't used the Legend Pro, specifically because it doesn't come in a 24-inch paddle, but using the Legend One, I'm a really big fan of it. Like, I have no major complaints on the function or how the stick works. I really enjoy using it. I like not having to tape the rest of my stick. I like that it's just the blade and the knob, and I like that I can grab it and go, and I feel confident making passes with this. I don't feel that rebounds are coming off bad or anything like that. I'm honestly really a big fan of it. The biggest downside that I have with this stick is the logos, and I'll put on a blocker and show you guys what I'm talking about here. But the oversized logos on the paddle, I just don't love, because when you hold it with a blocker, you're losing part of the Sherwood logo. And if you are a goalie that likes to tape up more across the stick, I mean, like, you're just losing half the logo, and then across the back it just says Rekker, but you're losing that purpose. So I'm just not a huge fan of that logo per se. I wish it was a little bit smaller. I get that this is the new cool style that everyone has, but I just think it looks a little weird when you cover it. If you happen to skip through this entire video and just went right to the overall thoughts chapter of this video, just know that I enjoy using this stick. I think for the price point, it's phenomenal. I think the technology you're getting is great. I think the added features, the grip, everything you name it, it is really worth it. I'm a big fan of using this stick. While I haven't used it with the professionals, and I've just been using it with my friends and other groups I skate with, so I haven't really been able to put it to like the hardest test of, you know, testing the shaft or testing the blade or anything. But I think for me, using it for recreational purposes, it's phenomenal. So I definitely recommend you guys checking out this stick. Just for comparison's sake, this is the Hyperlight 2 that I'm using. These are supplied by the Dallas Stars, so I have a few of these left over that I will continue to use in practices and games with them. I say games like I'm actually going to be playing with them. Like, I know I'm an emergency goalie, but like I use them for practices, but thanks, Dennis. So these are Scott Wedgwood Pro Returns. These are his leftovers that he did not take with him at the end of the season. And these sticks have seen better days. I'm looking at like 9 cracks in the edges of the shaft. I mean, it's very whippy. I feel it flexing. I know I have a giant crack somewhere right around here. I hear it creaking. I'm getting some heavy wear across the bottom of the heel. The whole stick just feels super soft. So I've used this a lot in practices and it definitely got beat up, but you can see what I mean when I talk about having all this extra tape on the stick. I mean, I try to keep a really small knob and not a lot. But I'm trying to save as much weight as possible. These sticks are actually 25s I sanded down, which is why I have to use the Pro Grip here. But yeah, that was just to get my 24-inch paddle that I like. And yeah, so I have to put all this tape over it. And I just kind of hate taping the sticks, so it's pretty cool having a Sherwood stick that I don't need to tape much at all. A final thought I did just want to add in here is thanking Sherwood for sending this stick over to me. I reached out to their team around, you know, like the Thanksgiving time, and I'm really happy that they were able to get this sent over to me. Again, I didn't want to get a 25-inch stick and have to modify it and shorten it down, especially after I talked about that logo placement right there. Would have been even worse having it shaved down. So I did not go the Legend Pro for that reason, but I've been super happy with this price point in the Legend One. So if you guys are shopping and you want to have a price point stick with having a lot of extra technology built into it, I highly recommend using the Rekker Legend One. If you would like to watch NHL gear breakdowns and warm-ups, click that playlist right there. Make sure you subscribe and hit that icon right there. Or watch me unbox that Warrior G7 RTL set. Click that video right there.